Hello and welcome back to another episode of Deconstructed. I'm your host Sam Anneman Mackenzie, and with me again, it's AWPer Pictures. You're off gallivanting last week or some other shite. I don't really care. But I guess I'll ask how you're doing. How you doing, Harry?
I'm doing good.
Oh,
you actually care this time. Normally, I get four words into
care.
sentences and you cut me off and just do the normal intro.
I care a little bit. I thought you'd let you have a moment. You weren't here last week. So, any more you want to say? I'm feeling good.
No, I'm feeling good. Let's talk about FNATIC.
Sweet, let's talk about FNATIC then, shall we? So FNATIC, they made a team last year and we thought, finally they'll have a settled roster. Mezii was taking over as IGL. It's quite an interesting prospect. They brought in Nikdas, Roy, Fasher, and it started quite well. They had a immediate playoffs appearance at Pro League, but it's maybe not as impressive as it looked at first because just about everyone gets playoffs at fucking Pro League. You look at a team and they just have one, even though you don't remember them doing fuck all because you just don't remember a Pro League in general. Anyway, that's a different topic. Pro League shite. Moving on. They then got the playoffs at the Rio Major, and that was maybe a bit more impressive, but also still a Mickey Mouse tournament. So, not sure how much it counts, but in 2023, they've just been fucking dreadful. There's no other words for it. If you look at their tournament history, it's not like they're even knocked out of tournaments by decent teams. And in the one CCT they have, I'd just like to point out that they were knocked out by a team called Let Us Cook that included Snacks. And if you've been beaten by Snacks in 2023, then it's probably time to call it a day on your roster. But they kept going for a couple of months, and we get to the Blast Major, and they're in the 2-2 brackets in the Legend stage after qualifying 3-0 from the RMR by playing shitters. And they come up against Into the Breach, a team that really they should have beaten, but they didn't. So now, just like every other fucking team, they've made some changes. And Nikdas is gone, finally. And Fasher has also made his way out after being maybe disappointing, maybe a bit cooked. We don't need to talk about that because we spoke about him a couple of weeks ago. But they brought in Afro, they brought in Dexter, so we'll talk about that a bit and hopefully not rage too much about how mediocre this team is. But first, let's talk about expectations, right? Because I've already said, it's mediocre, and when you think of mediocre, if we're talking in a footballing terms, we'd compare it to like a mid-table team is a mediocre team, and it's something we've spoke about before, that because of the way we look at rankings in CS, you only really care about the top 5, and everyone thinks that every team should be aspiring to be top 5, when really that's maybe not the case, and it's maybe not how organizations truly look at it. They might say it, to look ambitious, but really the most important thing is getting that dirty stick of money. So, what's your thoughts on this team and the idea of mid-table mediocrity? Because I've got my thoughts, which I'll get to, somewhat linked to OG. But let's hear your thoughts first.
Yeah, I mean, I'm just I on this podcast I always have to be the positive one. It's insane, but I think it's just kind of the economic reality though. It's everyone and their nan is an international team now. Like that's just how it is. Everyone is international because we've done the national teams for a long time. The talent pools have dried up. Everyone's international, and that's fine. But when that happens, like there's still only so many players who are actually like good tier 1 players. So if you are like a FNATIC or an OG, unless you're spending a ridiculous amount of money, you're left picking at this type of players. Like you're picking up the tier 2 players, and especially when you have a major like the Paris major, all of those players you were looking at that were like top of your scouting list, they've just been signed by Navi and then they're just not going to sign for FNATIC anymore. So you have to go onto your plan B and your plan C, and then that's kind of what happened with OG and FNATIC. I think that that they might think they've got a really good find, like we'll get Boris after the major, like he'll fit in really well, or this or that, and then you're like, no, we can't. He's gone to Falcons instead or something. And it's like, that's a bad example. That's a really bad example.
I wonder why he did that.
But yeah, it's that thing. It's economic reality. You're not going to be better than FNATIC. So there's it's like the opposite of a sweet spot, right? So you've got the really good teams who can spend a lot on salaries and they get rewarded with that, with trophies and more money with the sponsors and all of that. And then there's the teams who spend the bare minimum, the partner teams who spend like as little as they can to stay in the partner leagues and to get stickers every year. And in between that, like, is just a terrible place to be. Like, if you're spending a lot of money but still only like top 10 in the world, like, you just feel shit about it. Like, that's the worst place to be. And I think FNATIC, OG, NIP, all of them are trying to basically skirt under that like line. They're trying to stay in the spot where it's kind of economically worthwhile to have a Counter-Strike team, because they know they can't break up into the top 5, and they're just fine with that. And that's kind of, I don't know, that's like, there's lots of teams like this in every sport. There's always going to be orgs where everyone's like, oh, we used to be so good, all of this, like your West Hams of the world. They exist for a reason. You've got to have a mid-table team. Like, there's always going to be mid-table teams. If everyone's a top 5 team, then that's just not how it works, is it? There's only 5 spots.
Okay, well, fuck all of that, right? Because here's the thing, right? I'll allow you to say that about NIP. We'll ignore the fact of how much money they spent on Device and Broland, because, you know, since then, maybe they picked up some players for less money than that. Not OG and FNATIC, though, right? Because I'm okay with the idea of mid-table mediocrity. I think if you look at a team like, you know, Complexity, which, yeah, as you said, teams spend a lot of money on players, like sign-ins, whatever, that kind of shite. And then...
Sorry, I'll stop you, because the Complexity thing is perfect, right? Because you look at the Juggernaut, that's the uncanny valley middle ground of you spent a shit ton of money on salaries, and you're still just fine. So what's the point? So you sell them, and then you get a really cheap NA team.
Yeah,
and you're still in the partner team, and it's the same thing.
So I was getting to that, right? Fuck you. So then you get this Complexity team, which their wages are so much lower than what they were paying before. So much lower. And they're in a comfortable place of mid-table where actually it feels like, to a degree, they could grow, and they could eventually become an okay team. You can listen to last week's episode for more thoughts on that. But they're fine. They are okay. NIP, I can be okay with NIP, right? Because it does feel like, you know, they're trying to improve their team still, right? Right? And especially FNATIC now. OG, they just signed a bunch of shitters, whatever. Fucking move on, right? FNATIC, there is fucking zero ambition from this team. Right, this team is not a team where it's like, oh yeah, we're comfortable being mediocre, like we're comfortable being mid-table. We'll maybe have a good run occasionally, right? If we're going to keep up the fucking footballing terms, this team's built for relegation, mate. This team's built because they've got promoted, and they're like, fucking hell, well, we're probably going back down to the championship anyway. We may as well have a few championship players, right? Fucking Crims, 87 years old, right? Roy, 45, like. It was Dexter is like fucking Man United sacking Ten Hag and then getting fucking Neil Warnock. Actually, that's really unfair on Neil Warnock.
I don't know if Messi's Ten Hag in footballing terms, to be honest. But
well, maybe not. But like, all right. So
I'm gonna push back already. I'm gonna push back.
Yeah, push back.
Am I allowed to push back? Crims is fine. Crims is absolutely fine. He's like. You tell it, the Crims is so valuable to a team like this. The Crims is never going to be the problem in a team like this. Like, he's dropped off, but he's not Zipex. He's still getting like 1.0 ratings.
No, Harry. I'm not saying Crims is necessarily a problem. I don't think he's a problem. I actually quite like Crims in this team. I understand why they kept him. I think they were right to. I think he provides experience that the other two 45-year-olds couldn't bring. Like, and he's a very stable piece per the role he plays.
Mm-hmm.
But come on, I ain't gonna name a name off the top of my head because that's your thing, that's not my thing. But like, you're telling me that potentially there isn't someone younger out there, maybe Crows becomes better, can go into those roles and do a better job. I mean, like,
do you know what the thing is though? The thing is with especially teams like in this part of like the HLTV and ESL rankings, like making free changes is terrible. Like, free changes, you lose your core and you just lose loads of shit. Like, I think FNATIC are in the play-in of Cologne. I think OG managed to get in as well. But
yeah, FNATIC are playing.
But like, it's risky to make free changes, and Crims is fine. Like, making free changes at once, you're like working on stuff for 6 months. Like it's a complete rebuild. At least with 2 changes, one of them's an IGL already. Like that Crims is the change you make in 6 months if it's still bad. He's not the change you make now. They made the 2 biggest changes you can make to a team if you're struggling, which is changing the IGL, changing the system, and changing your AWPer. That's the 2 biggest changes you can make if you're trying to turn the team around. Like we can talk later about the players they've actually got, but I think making 2 changes in those roles, like that is already enough change. Like Crims is good enough that he's fine.
Okay. No, I'll allow it. I'll allow it. You know, he's fine. Roy's fine. Whatever. Right. So, you know,
Roy's good.
let's no, Roy's good. Like he's not a player that's gonna push them to fucking heights, but like
You've
for his
seen
role,
the stuff he has to
nothing
do.
wrong with him. Yeah, I've seen that. There's nothing wrong with him. I just don't think he's like fucking mind blowing. But this isn't a team to have mind blowing players, except for one. So I was gonna give you the option to pick, but I've accidentally segued nicely. Let's start with mezii, right? And mezii was the IGL, and he was still the best player on the team. And there's always been this sense of mezii since he appeared in the Cloud9. Was that Colossus? That was Colossus, wasn't it? Cole's yeah. So since he appeared in that and was the best player when he really shouldn't have been, like mezii's a fucking good player, and it was kind of a shame to see him be an IGL. So with him now presumably freed up from that, seeing as Dexter's coming in, what's your thoughts on mezii and what mezii brings to this team? Because he's got to be looked at as the star, right?
Yeah, I mean that's got to be the blueprint, but it's that thing again. We're going back to football. It's the mid-table thing. He's James Milner. He's played every role on the pitch. He's played every single role you can possibly play, and that's arguably held him back quite a lot, I think, because he is good enough to be a proper star player, and he's like changing his role every 3 months and just like, it's just like, oh, do you want to do this? We've just cut a play. Oh yeah, all right, yeah, I'll AWP in Cloud9 for like a week. Like it's that thing where it's kind of like a word version of the Zyrie personality thing, where he doesn't have the ego that reflects his talent, and that's actually really hard to deal with when you're on like a team like this, and you really need to be like look around, look to your right, look to your left, to be like, I'm better than these people. I need to be the best version. Like even when he's IGLing, like he wasn't like blame F IGLing. He wasn't setting himself up as much as maybe he should have done, to be honest. Like it's so yeah, that's where they're looking. He should be in the best roles and set up for complete success on this team.
So how good can he be then? Because I mean, like, I'm not sure whether I think it would be a consistent basis, and definitely not on this team. But you know, we've got a few friends that would suggest that he is just a top 20 player.
Yeah, and those friends happen to be from near Birmingham, but
No.
Who are you talking about?
Charlie.
Oh, really? Okay. Well, it's that thing where roles are always like a really good excuse for a player, but I think if you're going to be a top 20 player, you can tell no matter what role they're playing. I think he's probably just below that. I think he could be like a 4-star on a really good team. I think that's what we're talking about.
Well, like a JKS.
A little bit like a JKS. I think he's about that good, yeah. So like when he's feeling really comfortable, probably.
So you mean like, you know, in a year where his team's won a couple of things, he's in the top 20. Otherwise, at best, he's an honourable mention. That kind of thing.
Yeah. I think that's about the ceiling, and that's fine. Like that's really good. He's like going to be the best British player. Will probably like of CS:GO already, and he's better than anything. He already is easily, right?
Like,
yeah, easily. So it's that thing where because of that, the expectation will be a bit higher, I think, because everyone wants him to be that like top 20 player, that star. I don't know. If he's a top 20 player in this FNATIC team, that's like crazy, unprecedented. We all need to check what we saw before. And a lot of coaches and IGLs will be having a very bad look if mezii's now a top 20 player when he's been shuffled around all these roles for the last 3 years.
I'm not sure if that's necessarily true. I mean, like, it's not. I don't think it's overly hard to be within like the 15 and 20 positions.
Well, you saw Frozen last year, right? Frozen scraped in with like a 1.2 something rating, like just because he had no deep runs.
that was because you decided to back me and therefore backed my boy. But that's not the point. That's not the point. Like, I don't know, man. I see a top 20 player in mezii, but I just think, like,
Yeah, potentially.
because of what you said, I don't think it's, like, what you just said about Frozen, I don't think it's possible in this team. But then I think if you swapped him out for JKS, even if G2 didn't win a tournament, he probably would just be top 20 because he's so stable and would just consistently be good. Yeah, I'm willing to go on record and say he'd probably be better than JKS in G2.
Yeah, I mean, it's a bold one. It's a bold one. But yeah, I think he's got, like, because that's what you kind of have to make the most out of, like, a personality like his. Like, you're not going to be the ultra star, but if you can be the guy who is happy on a team full of humongous egos, like, that's a really nice asset to have, isn't it? So I think that's, if mezii wants to win trophies, I think that's kind of the route. It is the James Milner route. Like he's gone to City and been a squad player, but that's the thing. I'm saying it. mezii is James Milner, and he just needs to get his City move.
Yeah, it's funny as well because he's as boring as James Milner, considering that is literally the meme about both of them. They're just incredibly boring people. So anyway, let's move on. Let's move on to his replacement as captain. Let's talk about Dexter, who I'm pretty sure I've probably shared my views on Dexter on this podcast before, but if I haven't...
we did a Maz episode.
We did do that. If I haven't, or if you haven't heard them before, Dexter's a fucking waste of space. He's probably a lovely bloke, and I am really, like...
Think of his kids.
Alluding to that on the basis of his children and that whole thing, because that was one of the funniest narratives in Counter-Strike history. It is genuinely joyful. But really, what's he achieved as an in-game leader? Oh, he made Greyhound not shit. Great. Oh, he's been to the semi-final of a major with Frozen and Exertion playing their absolute fucking bollocks off. Great. What else did he do on Mouse? Oh, he got to the final of fucking...
Dallas?
Yeah, he got to the final of fucking DreamHack Dallas. Yeah.
Oh, so he was already cut. Amazing.
Let's be fucking real. Like, come on, man. Like, Dexter ain't a fucking IGL, at least not in Europe. Like, I was all for him getting cut, fucking off back to Greyhound and trying to make a legitimate Australian team again. Like, I thought actually it was possible and would have been quite nice for the scene in general, right? Fucking FNATIC though, man. Like, this is just, and tell me if I'm wrong or if you think otherwise, but is this not just a case of, there's an IGL who's in tier 1, he's got tier 1 experience, let's just plug and play him because that's better than, like, you know, trying to get someone from tier 2, like, you know, like Manx has done well with Ecstatic, he's just fucked off to some random fucking North American team that'll do fuck all though, so ignore him. Or like a Kicksan at Apex who's got one big result at a tier 1 tournament but maybe would struggle to do it consistently. Like, is it anything other than that? It's just, oh, he's there, so now he's...
They're not shopping in the type of supermarket that has Kicksan in it. That's the first thing to say. They're very much on the tier 2 merry-go-rounds type thing of just, you know, like this is where Dexter is gonna be. He's gonna be in these kind of rubbish mid-table European teams. Like that's the thing. That's the thing. And you look at who else they could get. Like I would have liked to see someone like Manx in this team. I think that's more ambition. You've got a higher like ceiling with someone like gambling on a bit of youth, but I don't think Dexter's as bad as you say. I think he's fine. I don't think Mauser's T-sides are actually very good for a few months here and there. Like that, they weren't completely terrible.
Swear.
Yeah, well, he does do that. Afro beware of debating IGL who wants the AWP. But yeah, I think it's just really uninspiring, isn't it? It's just a really boring move. It's like there's a bit of orange on his shirt now, but other than that, it's barely changed. Like they all have the same fucking black jerseys anyway. Like they're all the same thing.
Yeah, I really can't be asked for it, man. Like genuinely, like I just know for a fact now there could be like fucking 4 games on and one of them's some fucking tier 2 shitters and a bloke's got a gun to my head and he's like, right, you got to pick one of these games to watch. And FNATIC could be in, like, they could be playing the best team in the world. I'm never going to watch FNATIC game. Like, straight up. Like, just can't be asked. What are they going to achieve? They're not going to achieve anything. I mean,
This is where I have to push back because we shouldn't expect people to watch a whole podcast about a team you wouldn't even watch. But Dexter, and he's not terrible. It's much better to get Dexter and free mezii up than it is to keep mezii on the IGL. Do you want to think?
No, I won't take that away. I just think,
and he's not terrible.
I just think Dexter has a.
It's the thing where
with European IGLs.
Yeah, there is that, and also he's like he came into MAUs as like the fragging IGL. Like he had quite a lot of good roles early on in MAUs, and he just never really
like that's
at all. Like this year he's been a terrible fragging wise. Like he's genuinely dropped to like Carrigan level this year, which is not really what you want to see.
And when I look at this team, I begin to wonder where he's going to be playing. Like let's look at Mirage. Like for example, like CT Mirage.
He's stuck B, surely.
What role is he going to have? Like you'd hope it's B, but might not be.
No, the Mirage, I think. Well, the thing is, the thing with Mirage is that Crims is the supportive piece on every map, but you cannot take Crims out of connector. It's like when Vitality took Magus out of pit. I actually nearly had an aneurysm. Like, what are you doing? He's back in pit now. So they're going to win the next major as well. But you can't take Crims out of connector. But on the other maps, it's more normal. I think Roy and mezii should be the rotators.
Well, they absolutely should be, but I'm very
I think they will, to be honest. I think they will. I think Dexter fancies himself a few rotator spots. So I think it'll be fine. I think Dexter will have to take a lot of mezii's old horrible anchor spots, and then it's a little bit better because Roy is a very good active player. He's very aggressive, and that is always going to lead to inconsistency, and you want him to be your fourth best player, not your third or second, and that's just how it is with players that aggressive. Like that's fine. So then, but in this team with Crims, kind of, and like I've backed Crims, but yeah, it's Crims and Roy as your third and fourth players is probably going to be pretty tricky when you're playing the big teams. But that's kind of where you're at with these teams. Like it's very easy to sit here and say, look how mediocre this team is, but then you look who didn't get picked up this transfer season, and it's like, is there that many upgrades that are worth a roster move and like keeping someone benched and having to pay them loads of money? Like
there's only one I
who's
think
left?
Of. There's only one I can think of, but it's Searson, so it doesn't solve these issues anyway.
Yeah, Rice, there's not many.
No, there's not. Like you'd have to look lower down, and I mean there's Cypher who reportedly trialled with him anyway. He's not on the team, so I guess that didn't go well.
It's too similar to Roy, surely.
There's Boros who money. I mean, okay, so let's yes. I mean, yeah, you said it yourself. There's no real other options unless they were going to break the fucking bank, and for someone like FNATIC, that's not worth it unless you're getting 2015 back again. But let's move on to the role of the AWPer within this team. But before we talk about Afro, so we kind of had a little
thing.
We kind of had a little joke. No, I'm not going to do that. Although Nicky does this bad, and I out-AWPed him, whatever. So we made a joke a couple minutes ago about Dexter. He either liked to AWP, or Torsey just couldn't help but die with the AWP, and Dexter thought it was quite important, so he picked it up quite a lot. Right? Yeah. Now, Elliot suggested this before, and I'd like to get your thoughts on record. Should Dexter have just, pulled a bit of an MSL and just decided he couldn't trust AWPers and he didn't have to call for them, so he may as well AWP himself?
No, of course he shouldn't have. Of course he shouldn't have. What do you mean? No, we're not doing this.
Well, if you can't call for an AWPer, you may as well just call for yourself an AWP. Like,
I mean, no. What you should have done is stop picking up the AWP and entry for his better teammates. But that's in this team. He has to stop doing that. But the thing is, with Afro, Afro is an aggressive AWPer. He's the guy that Device praised a lot when he came on HTV Confirmed and talked about taking a lot of opening routes from Afro, a lot of ways to get picks because Afro's got crazy stats in tier 2, and And it's that thing, if you're an aggressive AWPer in tier 2 and you're farming numbers, it's like, how good are you going to be against in the big leagues? And same thing happened to Torzi, even though that's a lower level than what Afro is playing at, arguably, with the Academy. Pretty similar, really. But, so Afro is going to try and make the same plays, and I think that is kind of what you want in this team. Like, if he's just a passive piece and they rely on their riflers, they're going to be done for firepower a lot. They're going to need Afro to step up and pick a lot of riflers, like star riflers, kill a lot of star riflers, and then everything gets easier, right? So that's what they're going to need from Afro. And yeah, he is aggressive, so hopefully Dexter doesn't pick up his AWP. But I think Afro is actually, like, there's a few AWPers that are available. Like, you're kind of looking at Dexter without a team, and it's like, how's Dexter not got a team? Like, personality issues, whatever. He's still obviously a better player than Afro. Like, we're not going to not say that. But honestly, Afro looking pretty good. Like, if Zywa didn't exist, he would have been the AWPer, like, on a French team the last 5 years. I think he's waited for his chance, and now this is his chance, and he's looked good this year. So I don't know. Have you ever seen him?
I watched a couple of demos after the device thing, because I was starting to
struggling
use
with your AWP these days.
Yeah. And then you were like, "Come on, Sam. Yeah, got to learn to take some more aggressive picks." And I was like, "All right, I won't watch a device demo then. I'll watch an Afro demo." Yeah, he's all right. Like, he's certainly got some talent. I'm willing to say, based on your Zywu point, I think if Zywu hadn't have existed, he would still be in tier 2 now. I'm sure he'd have got an opportunity.
Oh yeah.
But I think he'd have
He
gone.
wouldn't have stayed.
Yeah, I think he'd have gone back down. I do worry a lot because of how he plays. There is just that thing of, like, if you're an aggressive tier 2 AWPer, it's because tier 2 allows you to be. And doing that in tier 1, it doesn't work out. But I think he's good enough and consistent enough that, he can learn to not always go for the aggressive duel, or at least, okay, he's peak mid on Ancient. He's not got the kill on the guy going to pocket or cubby, whatever the fuck you call that place. And then he doesn't stick around. Like, a lot of these tier 2 AWPers at that point, they're having another peak and they're dying on the second peak.
The famous Smoothie peak.
Yeah. Like, if he's good enough to learn then that it's like, all right, now I'm more of a late round player, whatever, like, maybe I'll go for a pick on the opposite side of the map. Fine. I really don't think it'll be an issue. One funny thing, though, is so I've got an interview with him. It's coming out soon, and I asked him about this. I was like, a lot of tier 2 AWPers, they've struggled moving up to tier 1. What makes you different? What do you think is going to be the key? His response was just, well, I've played in tier 1 with Heat, actually. Playing some tier 1 teams, and he said nothing other than that. That was just it.
Yeah.
That was just it. He's
How
not
did it go
answered it
for
at
him?
all. Probably quite fucking badly, considering how bad Heat did. Did they go 0-6 in their pro
I've
league?
just checked 0.98 rating versus top 10 opponents in his career.
Yeah, and I mean, look, like, Heat weren't that great. I know everyone wanted to see them succeed because of at a tier 2 level, and when they were like double pony or whatever the fuck that team was called, like, they built themselves up and it was respectful. It was like what was it? The team that, like, God Sent or FPX were before, when they were Orgless.
At Godsend?
I swear they
Like Contact or something?
I swear they went to God Sent at one point. Like, Sticko was on the team and shit. It was like FPX had them for a while. They were, like, respectable. Like,
that was Contact, wasn't it?
Was it Contact? I don't fucking know.
One that Stapping Twink started on.
Yeah, maybe. Well, I thought that was different, but fucking whatever. Like, I just hope there isn't a sense of naivety there. I hope he understands he's going into a different game. It's like, we can talk for however long about the fact that tier 2 is actually now the innovative level of Counter-Strike. It's where the new shit's figured out, because they have to constantly chop and change things to figure out how to beat a certain opponent, how to beat a certain playstyle that tier 1 doesn't have, because it's so protected now. But that doesn't mean that tier 1 isn't different in and of itself. Like, yeah, these tier 2 teams, like we just seen it with the major, they can come in and they can surprise these teams. Maybe there's a sense of arrogance there or naivety in itself, or one or two of these tier 2 play styles match up really well against the tier 1 play styles. I think someone like Bad News Eagles, in a sense, can really catch teams off. But as long as he understands that he's going into a different game and can adapt to it, I think he'll be fine. I don't think he'll be an issue. I don't think he'll be an AWPer who will ever look like, maybe a Searson or a Dexter would. If you put those two on this team, I think they look a lot better than he would. Yeah. He's probably still going to be top 2 on the team, but I think those two would be like by far the star. You know what I mean? Like,
yeah. Even like a Wonderful has been signed to Sprout, which is, I think, a worse team than this. So it's that thing. Like, he's played well enough in tier 2 that you can't really say it's unfair that he's got this chance. But yeah, it's hard to see him being a crazy player that's been hidden in the rough for like the last 6 years. Like, he's been around a while.
Yeah.
So yeah, like it's a decent signing. Like, it's a little plucky signing. I'm sure he's cheaper than buying Dexter out of OG and all of that.
He doesn't have a team, right?
Yeah, it was on LDLC. I don't know if his contract ran out or anything.
LDLC,
but yeah, he's definitely cheaper anyway.
Surely he was a free agent. They've just folded.
So yeah, free agent. Like, this is what we're talking about with this team. It's bottom of the barrel stuff. It really is. You don't want to spend money because it's a recession, and when are you going to see that money again? You just want to get your ESL, because they're just an ESL partner. They're going to play Pro League. They're going to try really hard at the RMRs to get another nice little seeding run like they did last time. That's what this team's for, and it's also for players to make a case for themselves to move to better teams. Like, that is what these mid-table teams are for, and
just mezii looking for a transfer.
So this kind of is just to put mezii in the shop window team, and we'll see what Afro can do until 1. But you're not expecting proper fireworks, are you?
It's funny because you've called him James Milner, but he's actually probably more likely to be Wilfred Zaha.
Mezii can't be Wilfred Zaha, I'm sorry.
Well, no, because Zaha backs himself, but like, he's one of them where it's like, he'll be the star of the team, and then FNATIC will rate him so highly that no one can afford him because no one's paying $1 million for him.
Yeah,
but
he'll sign a new contract just because he's a nice guy.
Yeah, bless him.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's bottom of the barrel shit, and it's a shame. It is a shame because like, it's different to the thing of like OG. It's a shame because OG is what they are in another game and what they kind of promised to be when they arrived in CS. It's a shame when it's FNATIC, and it's a shame when it's NIT, because they were just the 2 best teams in the world for a long time. And it was a fucking long time ago when, Counter-Strike hadn't really been invented yet. But I do just like, it will never, even though that time was a time before I even fucking watched the game, to me, like, it's just kind of a shame that they're just not even, they're barely even playoff contenders, man. Like, then I don't need them to contend for championships, but it'd be nice if you look at them, it's like, okay, you could get to the top 10 and you could stay there for a while, instead of being like, Complexity got top 10 because they almost got playoffs at Kato and then haven't seen the light of day since. Like, I don't know, right? What's the best case scenario for this team? Because for me, like, I think staying in the top 20 would be the best case, honestly. Like, I don't even think this team gets past 15 more than twice a year.
Yeah, I think you're right. I think it's dream scenario is basically repeat of Rio. If they get top 8 of a major, that's like, wow, what an overperformance. Well done. What a job they've done over there, by the way.
Or if they get
that's
top 8
about it.
anywhere,
they'll probably get playoffs
anywhere.
at Pro League. They'll probably get like top 12 at Pro League. Like, that's like, in terms of goals, it has got to be, playoffs at a major, I think, is a good goal for a team, because you never know what happens in Swiss. Like, you can do that even if no one's ever going to consider you a top 8 team in the world for doing that. Like, I think that's doable. Yeah, break into the top 10 a few times, like, not stay there. It's like when Maui said that Big are going to be a top 5 team. Like, he didn't mean they're going to be the 5th best team in the world. He meant that they can have a few good tournaments and break into the top 5. I think you can see the same thing with with FNATIC in the top 10, I think they can just nestle in the top 10 a few times a year, and that's a good job to them, and that's well done for what they're doing with their pieces, and it's fine. They're not spending a lot of money. Like, yes, they're a household name, but Nottingham Forest won 2 Champions Leagues, and
European Cup.
that's yes, but this is what, like, it happens. It happens. Like, in summary, it happens.
Which actually, on the basis it was a European Cup, that is just the best comparison, isn't it? It just is. They were majors that, like, they are majors. Did they even have
like 2 weeks apart as well?
At that point? Who knows? Who knows?
Yeah, it's like the SK back-to-back majors, but they're like a month apart. Like, it's just Mickey Mouse. Like, when you see how every single summer break kills a team, apart from Astralis are the only ones who weren't killed by it. Winning 2 majors in a period of 2 months, I don't care about the back-to-back thing at that point. That's the same as like phase 2022. It's the same thing. I don't care.
Yeah, I think that's completely fair. But what I will say is, I think your belief on how high this team will go in the rankings is very optimistic.
That's an optimistic take. I think they can break into the top 10 a few times in the next 12 months.
Well, I guess you did say towards the start of the podcast that you're the one who has to be the positive one.
Yeah, with you around.
Yeah, well. Anyway, what do you guys think? What can this team ever hope to be? What can they realistically expect to be? Let us know in the comments down below. Like the video, subscribe to the channel. We'll be back again next week to talk about Vitality and just how fucking good they are, because they are a fucking joy to watch, and it'll be nice to actually get to be positive for once. I've been Sam Animo Mackenzie. He's been Harry Nero Richards, and we'll see you next time.